So why don't we get into the New York Jets? Before we get into the whole I'm taking receipts, there was news from Mike Francesa on his podcast that the New York Jets and Woody Johnson might be interested in possibly selling the team. It's just a story right now. There's no truth to the story. But if Mike Francesa is speaking about it, there has to be a truth. Now, I don't know what connection Mike Francesa has with the New York Jets and the Johnson family. I don't know. But if he's coming out and saying that Woody Johnson might be interested in selling the team, it's going to grow legs. Just a couple of weeks ago, we heard that James Dolan, in about a year and a half after he gets out of that thing that he is doing out in Vegas, he might be interested in selling the New York Rangers and the New York Knicks. For some reason, besides the Yankees and the Giants, the Brooklyn Nets just got a new owner a couple of years ago. The Mets have a new owner in Steve Cohen. James Dolan might be interested in selling the Knicks and the Rangers. The Islanders had a new owner a couple of years ago. And now the Jets. All these New York teams looking to be on the market. And I don't think Hal Steinbrenner is selling the Yankees. I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't see the Mara or the Tisch family selling their stock in the Giants. It doesn't seem likely. But what does this say to the New York Jet fan? Is this a good thing? I would say it's a good thing, even though I like Woody Johnson. He's been a good owner. He's opened up his pockets. He spends the money. It's not like he's been putting the money back into his pocket. He is giving the money out to the players and to the free agents that they bring in. But for some reason, nobody wants to play for Woody Johnson. Bill Belichick did not want the New York Jets job in 1998 when Parcells stepped down because he didn't like Woody Johnson. He was a friend of Leon Hess. Within 24 hours, he takes the New England Patriots job, and we all know what happened after that.
Jets fans scarred forever.
Tom Brady in the 6th round, and then all those Super Bowls and all those playoff appearances in the AFC East. The New York Jets are not a good organization. I am a Jet fan, and I have every right to speak up and say the truth. They're not. The last time they made the playoffs was in 2011. That was over 11 years ago. That was with Rex Ryan, Bart Scott, Braylon Edwards, Santonio Holmes, Mark Sanchez. I could go on and on and on. Since then, the Jets have had 3 different coaches, have not come close to winning an AFC title, and haven't come close to making the playoffs. How many top 5 picks have they had in the last 10 years? How many of them actually turned out to be decent? I could only understand why Woody Johnson wants to sell this team. It makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't want this team either. Even though with the new contracts, the new TV deals that the NFL has brought in, the new advertisements and sponsorships all benefit the Johnson family. But nevertheless, we wonder, when is this story going to really grow legs? And I believe if this team is not a winning team this year, if this team doesn't win 7 games, I believe the Johnson family will decide in the offseason, when he knows and they know that Joe Douglas is no longer going to have a job, Zach Wilson will no longer be the starting quarterback of this team, and Robert Saleh might be on his flight back to San Francisco.
Joining the other ex-49ers that are now members of the New York Jets, both on the coaching staff and with the players. But yeah, this is definitely something that I would not be surprised if it happened sooner rather than later, because we've seen big cities kind of take advantage of that kind of thing. LA did it just recently with the Rams and the Chargers. Rams obviously winning the Super Bowl in their home stadium. And this project, since SoFi Stadium has been built, and even since they moved to LA, has been a big deal for the NFL and for Los Angeles in general. And now New York. Why not take advantage of that? Better fan base over there, much more endorsements over there, much better overall football and sports city than LA is. So why not take advantage if you're the Jets and try to be able to, 1, build a new stadium, and 2, change the image of that. Yes, Woody Johnson spent money, but also at the same time, the top free agents, kind of like we were talking about with the Knicks and James Dolan, sometimes shy away from the Jets or have to take a lot more money to go to the Jets. Some Jets fans call it the Jet tax because they were in a good run team. So as a result, the Jets might have had some big names come in there, like Woody Johnson likes, but sometimes they didn't create good results. And it's a playoff drought that's over a decade. I was in high school the last time they made the playoffs. That's what the Jets are going to have to go by, but this is definitely a move I could definitely see happen. I think even faster than the James Dolan one, because you were talking about the James Dolan project in Vegas. It's been a long time for the Jets, and they definitely need that kind of culture identity. And you look at that kind of thing with the Rams. When they did it to the LA, they had a very similar playoff drought. They hadn't made the playoffs since 2004 at that time, which they moved in 2016. They made the playoffs in 2017 in McVay's first year. So that was a very similar length drought. So maybe the Jets are trying to get that kind of identity and that kind of notoriety brought to New York, especially to win over against the Giants, too.
And then there's Robert Saleh, who spoke to the press on Monday after that debacle of a football game. Lamar Jackson outdueled the old man himself, Mr. Granny Panties, Joe Flacco. The fact is, the backup quarterbacks on this team are not only old, wrinkly, can't run anymore, shouldn't even be in the NFL anymore, but are starting for a team that is supposedly a much more talented team now that Robert Saleh has sold to the fans in the offseason, and a competitive team this year than any other team in the last 5 to 6 years. And what did they do on Sunday? Mike LaFleur decided not to run the ball after the first drive. Michael Carter got almost 20 yards on a run. They decided not to run the ball with Michael Carter. They started giving the ball to the rookie Breece Hall, who ran the ball pretty well in the first half. And then he dropped the ball, but he's a rookie, and I'm not going to take shots at him. But for some reason, they stopped giving the ball to Michael Carter. They started throwing the ball when it was raining with old man Flacco to Corey Davis, Mr. Pothead himself. He dropped the ball numerous amount of times. Elijah Moore couldn't catch the ball either. He made some mistakes too. And a couple of really big penalties, which cost the Jets in the second half of the game. But we're not even going to talk about that. We're not going to get into the defense, how good they looked in the first half. They kept the Baltimore Ravens offense to only one touchdown and a field goal kick. We're going to talk about after the game. On Monday, after practice, Robert Saleh was interviewed by the press, very calmly said, you know what? I'm going to be taking receipts for all you doubters that are mocking us. Robert Saleh. Now, this organization has been a clown organization for the last 10 years. Look at the clowns we had coaching this team. All the way from Rex Ryan to Todd Bowles to Adam Gase. I could go on and on and on and on. Now we bring in a guy that's very well respected around the league. A lot of players love him, and he's a player's coach. Likes to dance on the sidelines. As we saw on Sunday, even losing, he was dancing on the sidelines. And he comes out and he takes shots at the press, which you do not do in New York. There's one place you do not attack the press, and that is New York. And he knows that. Joe Judge learned his lesson because he's no longer the New York Giants head coach. He's co-offensive coordinator for the New England boring Patriots.
What a great position.
Dable taking over a job, and we'll get into Dable in the next segment, don't worry. And him saying the things that he has said over and over and over again, all gas, no break, trying to teach us as Jet fans that this is going to be a different New York Jets team. This is the same old New York Jets. The same Jet team with all the talent, all the youth, all the ability to compete in these football games and absolutely choke against a Baltimore Raven team that didn't have their number one running back in this game, in J.K. Dobbins.
Didn't have their number 2 either. Gus Edwards was hurt too.
They didn't have Gus Edwards. I can't even tell you who their number one wide receiver is. The only thing that I could say that they did well in this game is they put Sauce Gardner on Andrews, and he shut him down. That's it. You shut down the biggest weapon on the Baltimore Ravens, and when you do that, you usually win. No, the Jets lose 24-9. How do you lose to Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens 24-9 when you shut down their best option? I'll tell you how. It's the New York Jets. It's the great and powerful Robert Saleh, all gas, no break, New York Jets. And then you go and you attack the press, you attack the fans and say that you're going to take receipts. And then you're trying to draw it back during the week because you said that and it pissed everybody off on a national stage. That was a clown statement. And I love you, Robert Saleh. What is it going to do? It starts the clock. You just started the clock. And what does that mean? Every single coach that's ever opened his mouth in New York, in any other sport, and take shots at the press and the fans, the clock starts. And you know how long it lasts for them if they don't win? No longer than a year. It happens all the time. Do you want me to go back on the coaches in every single sport that opened their mouth to the press and said what they felt about the fans and the organization and the press? I could go down the line on the coaches that have done that. Does anybody remember Jeff Hornacek? He's gone. How about Derek Fisher? Remember him?
Wish I didn't.
There's a Ranger head coach that really liked to open up his mouth.
Mr. Tortorella.
How long did he last after he opened his mouth against the press?
2 more years. 2 Giants coaches recently.
Joe Judge.
Judge and McAdoo. Both of them.
McAdoo. Adam Gase was another one.
Googly eyes.
This always happens. And now what Robert Saleh did was he pissed off a lot of people. Not just the fans and the press. He pissed off analysts that stuck up for you since he got the job. Mike Greenberg had his own thoughts on ESPN on what he thought about Robert Saleh and how he attacked the Jet fan and the press. It's not a good sign to start the beginning of the season getting dominated by Baltimore. Nobody expected them to be Baltimore, but we wanted to see a competitive game. It was not competitive. It was Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco playing his former team and looked like the old man he was. He was better off coaching on the sidelines, one of the rookie quarterbacks on one or the other team. He does not belong on the field.
At this point, maybe the Jets have to trade back for Geno Smith because Joe Flacco looked horrible.
Geno Smith looked pretty damn good against the
Smith
Broncos.
Looked good, yeah. Primetime game against a Broncos defense that, granted, got worse, but is still pretty good.
I'll tell you why he looks good. He's not a Jet. I hated Geno Smith with the Jets, but now all of a sudden...
I knew that pick was horrible at the time, too. It was like, this is the classic Jets, just drafting a flashy quarterback that regressed badly the second half of that college
And then he goes
season.
to Seattle and he starts to win.
But nevertheless, those comments definitely put a time bomb on you, Robert Saleh, because you have a lot to prove now. And not only just as a defensive play caller, because as a defensive play caller, there were definitely some good things you saw in that game, taking away the run, taking away Mark Andrews. Fine. You did some good things. Lamar Jackson only rushed for 17 yards. The Ravens' leader rusher was Kenyon Drake with 31 yards. Well, maybe your offensive coordinator, who has an even bigger time bomb than you, should stop calling the most stale offense imaginable. It looked very Jason Garrett-esque out there, the way he was calling all these run plays in the beginning, and then all of a sudden he just throws these short passes. And like Jason Garrett did with the Cowboys and with the Giants, sometimes did not use his top weapons to their advantage. Garrett Wilson only started to see playing time in the second half. And Corey Davis, who did not have this big of drop problems in Tennessee, all of a sudden went to the Evan Engram school of drops and has pot hands. Elijah Moore must have went there too, because he had a lot of issues with that as well. So all of a sudden you have Mike LaFleur, who doesn't know how to call plays, an offensive line that doesn't know how to block, granted have some injuries. Wide receivers, there's no excuse there. Everyone's healthy. Running backs, no excuse there to get it going in the second half. I think Michael Carter played well, but still, that's not really a justification of Mike LaFleur. That was justification of Michael Carter. So, Mike LaFleur, you got a big time bomb on you to keep your job, and Robert Saleh, you better justify those comments as head coach.
And that defense played very well in the first half and looked terrible in the second half. That had a lot to do because the offense couldn't stay on the field.
Right.
Sauce Gardner is everything that everybody expected him to be. DJ Reed looked really good in his first game. Those two guys shut down the opposing team's best wide receivers. It's not saying much because they didn't have much, but they still shut them down.
59 yards of 54 yards, but that's very good in today's game.
The safety play was horrible. And now you're going in to Cleveland on Sunday. A team that has Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback, a third-string quarterback. If you don't come out with a win in this game or even make it competitive against a Cleveland Brown team, let's be honest, they have one wide receiver and two running backs. That's it. That's their offense. I don't know about Njoku. I don't know what he is this year. He didn't look good last week. The Jets don't do very well against tight ends.
That might be a matchup that they'll have to expose, especially if LaMarcus Joyner has to play free safety. Good luck with that.
I think it's going to be very, very interesting for the New York Jets after Robert Saleh put the pressure on his team to come out and be a dominant force in Cleveland.